My name is Robert Hawkins. It's 6:42 a.m. on Saturday, May 23rd. Approximately 7 hours ago, something attacked the city. I don't know what it is. If you found this tape, I mean, if you're watching this right now, then you probably know more about it than I do.
Hey, yo, what's going on, friends? Yes, we are here back again, reviewing a movie this time for the start of 2024. This is episode 23 in Madness Pod. My name is Shawn the Butcher. I'm here with Vertebrae 33. What's up, dude?
What's going on, Shawn? How are you? How are
I'm,
things?
I'm great. How are you feeling?
A little under the weather, but nothing that this movie couldn't help me with.
You got a couple of boogies?
I got a few, and I got a whole pocket. I got a whole pocket full of tissues. You can't see it, and I got a cup of green tea.
What kind of mug?
Oh my God! Should we talk about? We're gonna
Do it.
ruin this whole episode.
Go ahead.
This mug is. There was a movie on Netflix called The Midnight Sky with George Clooney. It was based off of a book. It's a tremendous book and a really cool movie. And he has a mug in the movie. And I was determined to find this mug. And I found this mug. And it's like an IKEA mug. That's what they used. But anyway, so this mug was in The Midnight Sky, which is not the movie we did.
I love your mug obsession. Make sure you follow us on the socials at In Madness Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads. Hit us in the mail sack. After we finish this movie, our next 0.5, we will be getting to Apple reviews and reading your emails, however positive or negative, any questions you have about the past year of In Madness Pod. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, where you can see Vertebrae 33 holding up his boogie tissues. Now, if there was any reason to subscribe to our YouTube to watch In Madness, is to see what mug he's holding and showing you, and the boogie tissues.
And I will say the tissues are empty. They're just tissues I threw in my kangaroo pouch. But yeah, but maybe you could catch me. And look, I'm trying for 2024. I'm trying to get closer. Because I would look at these things on YouTube and I'm like, I'm 5 miles away and the camera's right up on you.
You're like
so
Batman.
I gotta
in the Batcave.
Yeah, I was like I'm off mic now, but I was it would go off mic for a sec. It was way back there. But now I'm trying to be cool like you, Shawn.
I'm the opposite of cool. Make sure you check out the In Madness Spotify playlist, where we rack up all the songs from all the movies that we talk about, whether there's a sample in it or whether a song has sampled a clip from the movie, anything like that on the In Madness Spotify playlist. Happy In Madness Monday from myself to you, if you are listening on In Madness Monday, when we drop a brand new episode every single week. It is something we started in the middle of last year just to make this even cooler. And I'm having fun dropping these episodes. Tell your friends if you are enjoying this podcast, if you are following us on the socials, if you're liking what you're hearing, liking what you're seeing, tell your friends, do the reviews, leave the comments. Let's push this. Let's spread the madness worldwide. Vertebrae told me we have listeners throughout the universe, throughout the galaxy. And that's great to hear. Do you have, and does the vinyl for this movie exist, Vertebrae?
The vinyl for this movie does not exist because there's literally one track for this movie. That's it. But the movie we're doing, hold on.
Oh, there's props. Oh, are you going to do first person?
The movie we're there it is. The movie we're doing.
I'm getting nauseous.
You're getting nauseous already. The movie we're doing is Cloverfield. Right now I got to fix my computer here. I don't have a separate camera, so for those of you at home, I just grabbed the entire computer and it was like this 27-inch computer and moving it around. But Cloverfield released January 18th, 2008. The now classic found footage monster movie. And Shawn, before we get into all kind of the stats, because there's a lot of heavy hitters involved in this film too, behind the scenes. And before we get into all that, do you remember when you first saw it?
I mean, I have a tirade I'm about to go on, so I think you might want to hit yours before I hit mine, because yes, I do, and there's a story before we get to it.
Okay, so do you want me to go first?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay,
go ahead.
So I saw it in the theater. I actually, at the time, 2008, was a subscriber to Entertainment Weekly, and they sent out an email that said you could go see this new movie Cloverfield at some like advanced preview or something in Manhattan, in New York, in I think like Gramercy area maybe. And I happened to get tickets. So I went with my wife, and actually I still have, hold on.
Cool.
I found them, but I still have
Oh,
the posters. And what's crazy about these posters, and you can see them on YouTube, is these mini posters. There's like 4 of them. I took like 4, and they're in perfect condition. I don't even know how I got them home like this, but anyway. So there's a buzz about this movie. We can get into all of the social media, not social media, it wasn't, but it was all the online buzz about it, all the mystery that they build up about this. And so we get to the theater, and we know it's a monster movie, right? So we get to the theater, and it's, as we get into it here, it's moving, the camera's moving all over the place. And I'm like, I don't know, I feel a little bit queasy right in the beginning. And then I look at my wife, and she's like super queasy, right? So she's like closing her eyes and putting her head down. And some people I see her getting up and leaving. And I was so torn, Shawn, because she's in the seat and she's soaking wet, like sweating and like nervous and like getting, starting to get dizzy and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what do I do? Because they're gonna show this monster.
I
Like,
need to see it.
I gotta see this monster, but like, I have to take care of my wife at the same time. Like, and eventually she kind of just got her. It gets better as the movie goes along. I thought it was that I adjusted better, but I actually think it just gets better as the movie goes along. There's a lot more long shots. There's a lot more things being held in the beginning. It is none of that. And it is super shaky. And so she gutted out and sat there, slumped in the seat, and kind of closed her eyes for a little bit, and then opened them. And she got to see the monster, and I got to see the monster. It didn't have to be a bad husband, because I thought, like, if she leaves the theater, I have to follow her. But if she gets up and leaves the theater, then like they're gonna, as soon as I walk out, there's gonna be a monster clear as day on screen, because that was the whole thing, right? We don't know. They didn't show it. They didn't completely show it throughout the movie. You're gonna get one shot where you see it perfectly. So saw it in the theater in 2008, and still have the 4 collector's posters here from it.
So what I have to do, I mean, I'm not trying to one up you, I swear to God, but
No, it's fine.
I do have an immaculate, full-sized, signed by the cast movie poster that
That's
I
awesome.
got from work. But what I don't have is like a Cloverfield shirt or the Cloverfield monster to put on my shelf with my Godzillas. And that's something, I mean, I know one exists because I've probably seen it on Instagram, but
Mhm.
it just hit me as I was doing this that like I don't have like a Cloverfield monster toy. And I feel like with the amount that I love this movie, it is definitely something that I need to own. I don't know what movie I was originally seeing in theaters, but imagine my surprise because this came out in 2008, and at that time, I feel like I'm the solo Godzilla diehard maniac. Like there
Mhm.
wasn't the gigantism of Godzilla fanfare that there is now in 2024. So I'm sitting there, my lonely little Godzilla self, and then all of a sudden, sitting in the theater, and the trailer for Cloverfield pops up, and the Statue of Liberty's head is
Mhm.
skidding across the floor, and I'm just sitting in the theater losing my goddamn mind. Is this a new Godzilla movie? Like, I'm like, what is this? Is this a new American franchise? I was just excited as hell. I was all in on the hype for the movie. I
Mm.
was on the website. I was reading the website, going through the government files, the whole
Mm.
thing, all the classified footage and all that. There's the connection with the drink. I don't know if we get into the connection with the drink. We can get into that later.
Slusho. Yeah.
Slush show, yes. So there's I was all in. I was like, what is slush show and what is this and what is that? Okay, so I have my story. That wasn't the story. I have my story about the first time I saw Cloverfield. The movie comes out. It's the same time I'm working for Opie and Anthony on Sirius XM.
Mm.
And the entire crew, that they all came up to promote the movie, and that my man Roland got me the poster signed by everybody. Um,
Nice.
So I don't think anybody loved the movie as much as I did. So they were just like, here, take it. We don't want it.
Mhm.
So then the entire Opie and Anthony crew gets invited to a screening of Cloverfield. And this isn't like a screening for like, I don't know if anybody from the movie was there. It was for journalists and
Mhm.
people reviewing the movie. All the newspapers, the magazines, they wanted to write the reviews or whatever. And the same day we got invited to the premiere was luckily the same day that the legendary comedian Patrice O'Neill was visiting in the studio. He is one of the greatest of all time. And we went to the premiere of Cloverfield with Patrice O'Neill.
Hmm.
And never in my life could I have imagined this scenario. This movie I've been like stoked to see for months. And now I'm going to an early screening and just coming along because he's got nothing else better to do that afternoon is this legend, Patrice O'Neill. Uh, and I'll tell you right now, he talked through the entire movie and pissed off all of the reviewers who were around him, and it was hilarious. I will be totally honest, like, because if it's me and there's a group of loud kids at the theater, yes, I absolutely cannot stand them. However, now I'm in on the bit because I know I'm at a movie with Patrice O'Neill and it's just going to be funny as hell. So the entire time I'm just like laughing my ass off. And it was just like a legendary experience. Sometimes I feel like I dreamed it. Like I
Mm.
don't know if it actually happened. But I know
Yeah.
it happened because I was there. And it is a moment I will never forget seeing this movie for the first time with Patrice O'Neill. That's how I first saw Cloverfield.
That's awesome. It's
Yeah.
crazy that we both saw this is a movie we both saw in the theater. This is a movie we both saw in advance. Right? We both saw, that'll never it's never gonna happen again. This is it. This is the only time. So I think that's the only movie I've ever seen in advance. I've seen things on opening night, but this was like a whatever. So yeah. Wow. That's really cool.
So, and I love Blair Witch Project, right? Because that came out like before this, right? Yeah, definitely. And I love Godzilla. And this is like smashing those worlds together. So I
Mhm.
was like, I'm gonna love this friggin' movie. So of course I went to see it after, of course, without Patrice, and I got to take
Yeah.
it in more. So I'm ready. Are you ready? Do you have anything you want to start with before we go? Do you want to get into anything or you want to get into it as we go along? Whatever you want to
Uh the only thing I want to ask is before we jump on, you said very quickly to me that you were nervous that you were going to get a text from me about this movie. Did you think I didn't like this movie?
So I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know. I was going to ask if you'd have ever seen it before. I didn't know if this was your first viewing of it. Yeah, I didn't know if this was going to be. I didn't know that you were a hardcore Cloverfield. Even though you've been constantly bringing, and this was your idea to do this movie. Also, like I
Mhm.
don't know why I thought that it would just be one that you were like, no, this is too ridiculous. I cannot bear to deal with this movie. And I was hoping not because it is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like for an American
Nice.
monster
Right.
Godzilla esque movie, it
Mhm.
is it is it is the king to me. I love it. I love it.
And that's what producer J.J. Abrams wanted, right? So he wanted this. He famously tells this story about going to Japan with his son and seeing Godzilla toys and everything, and thinking we need to have a kind of an American, iconic creature as well. We'll just get into a few things here. The creature was designed by Neville Page, who's a famous creature special effects designer who was also known for being a judge on the show Face Off, this tremendous special effects show. And he's done props and effects for everything from Prometheus
Mm,
to The Watchmen
mm,
to Minority Report and Super 8 and Star Wars Into Darkness. So he's done a few along with J.J. Abrams' company. The Creature animation was done by Tippett Studios. So Phil Tippett's studios, and Phil Tippett's super famous guy. If you don't know him, Google him and you're going to be surprised that you don't. And they worked on a ton of films from RoboCop to the new Star Wars movies to The Ring, Hellboy, Men in Black.
ooh,
So we've got heavy hitters right there on the creature side. And then we've got it directed by our buddy, Matt Reeves, the Batman, the
mm,
War of the Planet of the Apes. So we've
mm,
got that produced by J.J. Abrams. So it's
mm-hmm.
J.J. Mission Impossible 3, Star Wars Force Awakens. He was in TV. He created a bunch of shows: Felicity, Alias, Lost, Fringe, and he did some of these along with Matt Reeves. Apparently, him and Matt Reeves knew each other since they were young, and they made like Super 8 films together and stuff. So that's pretty cool. And it was written by Drew Goddard, who's kind of a longtime collaborator with them as well. He started writing episodes of Buffy, and he wrote for Alias and Lost. But we also know him as making his directorial debut with The Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
So we've got The Cabin in the Woods, we've got J.J. Abrams, and then we've got Matt Reeves, our buddy from the Batman and the newer Planet of the Apes movies, all rolled together. So pretty impressive group. The cast is Lizzie Kaplan as Marlena, Jessica Lucas as Lily, TJ Miller as Hud, Michael Stahl David as Rob Hawkins, Mike Vogel as Jason Hawkins, Odette Annabelle as Beth McIntyre. And right off the bat, even though I hadn't seen this movie in a long time, and full disclosure, watched it feeling really, really sick already, something jumped out at me that would have never jumped out at me before when I saw it. But the last name Hawkins jumped out at me right away, because I was like, Hawkins Elementary from Stranger Things, Hawkins everything from Stranger Things. And I'm like, okay, because they're just chock full of references. So there's that. Do we want to get into, before we get into the movie, do we want to get into the monster's origin, or do you want to kind of stop as we go along into the movie?
I mean, for me, I feel like that's at the end, to be totally honest.
Okay. Yeah, let's get into that, because it's all over the place. And just, we set the scene for everybody. If you haven't seen this movie, please watch it. I don't know why you're listening. You should stop listening and go watch it. And this movie sets a different standard for these types of movies. There were found footage movies before this, for sure, a bunch, and big ones, but right, Blair Witch, I assume, was before this. That was in the late 90s, maybe?
Yeah, early
2000s?
definitely.
Right. So somebody will write in and tell us we didn't do our research on found footage movies. But there's so much to talk about this movie. And I did not get into all of the viral marketing for it, because there was just way too much. But I remember being sucked in by it when this movie was about to come out. And I remember Matt Reeves talks about on the commentary, there's a part in the trailer where he's like, they say like, what? It's huge. It's alive. It's something, right? That's Matt Reeves' voice. And he mentions this, and I remember this. People were like, no, he's saying it's a lion. And like for like a couple days, there were just millions of posts online on message boards and all these sci-fi message boards and everything. Like, it's a lion, because nobody knew. And we see the Statue of Liberty head with like what looks like it could have been claw marks across it. So amazing. But what a tremendous job they did building this up. J.J. Abrams is notorious for the mystery box, they call it. He's not as good at completing sometimes and finishing off the story that everyone seems to love. But I think part of that is he creates so many mysteries that you're bound to like annoy people when it's solved. Right? I think that's what it is. He creates so much of this cool stuff leading into it that you're going to get a good percentage of people who have their own beliefs in what it is. And even if you tell them it's a different way, like, they're not going to believe you. They're going to be disappointed. The hype is too huge.
Yeah. Blair Witch was 99. So, yeah, that set 99. The precedent, definitely. Blair Witch walked so Cloverfield could run. So right in the beginning, before the movie even starts, as the production company is responsible for releasing the film or just being shown on the screen, Bad Robot and such, we hear stomping footsteps in the background, which is exactly the way the original Godzilla 1954 starts. So I'm like, they know what I want, and they're just shoving it in my face, which I love.
Right away.
The movie begins with the emergency broadcast color bars from back in the day with the emergency broadcast tone, which is immediately like a very disturbing tone. We see we're watching a video from the U.S. Department of Defense. Another image shows on the screen: property of the U.S. government, do not duplicate. So we know we're seeing something we're not supposed to be seeing, which is a great setup. On the screen flashes the info of this tape gathered from a digital SD card, multiple sightings of case designated Cloverfield. It says camera retrieved at area formerly known as Central Park. Formerly? Whoa. Mind you, we went to see this premiere of this movie with Patrice O'Neal blocks away from Central Park, right where all of this happens. So like I felt like I was right in the middle of all of this.
Right.
So,
And you know, some of this filmed in Paramount's backlot, some's green screen, and then they did do a small percentage of filming in actual New York City. It's not a huge percentage of it, but it's a small percentage. They kind of came in and picked up a bunch of other shots. Obviously, it costs more cost effective to do it on a backlot, but they do a tremendous job of weaving in things that are green screen along with actual New York City landmarks, and even where they're at Central Park is a different park, not Central Park that they're filming it at, but then they eventually do film parts of it there, and it just gets all cut together. And I would say they do this really well too, because it's somebody filming this so themselves, so there wouldn't be cuts, there wouldn't be camera cuts, so they had to be creative on how they were going to have camera cuts and things take place and how to splice stuff in. So tremendous job.
everything we see for the duration of this film is from the point of view of this camera. It's 6 a.m. It's early morning, high rise, midtown Manhattan. Ugh, rich kids. The camera's overlooking Central Park, again blowing my mind because it's overlooking the same blocks that I just walked to get to the theater of this movie. I feel like that one shot is actually Manhattan. The dude holding the camera says it's 6 a.m. Beth's dad's place. Her dad's out of town. It's already a good day. He wakes up Beth. His name is Rob. She asks what he's doing. They stare at each other lovingly. Cut to them goofing around. A few minutes later, it's revealed Beth's never been to Coney Island. Rob is shocked. He's got to take her. She takes a camera from him, asks what else they're going to do, and the camera cuts. Another dude's got the camera. He's screaming, "It's not my camera. Is this thing on?" As the camera's flailing all over the place, making people throw up. This was probably the point where everyone started getting up and walking out of the theater, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
he was the worst filmer of the group.
Yeah. He's flailing all over the goddamn place. His girlfriend is yelling at him. They're headed to this party. She's like, "I want you to go around with your brother's camera." So this is Rob's brother. She wants him to get testimonials from everyone. He's like, "It's not a wedding." He's annoyed he has to do it. He says he doesn't know how to work the camera, and the camera cuts. It cuts back in, and we see Rob and Beth on the train.
And so Shawn, this cast, when they're bringing this cast together, all this cast knows is that they're filming a movie for J.J. Abrams, and it's a Paramount film. This was a big deal. This was when J.J. just kind of was getting things kicked off for him, and he's got this deal, this huge deal as far as movies go. That is huge deal with Paramount. So all they know when they're bringing him in is they just want camaraderie. They just want to get them to get along. So a lot of them have no idea it's going to be a monster movie. They're thinking, okay, Felicity, this is going to be 20 somethings in Manhattan. You know, they just want to see the way we relate to each other. And so the cast, because the secrecy on this film was so huge when they were filming it throughout the entire film, and you were only on a need to know basis when you were doing it, and copies of the script or, you know, parts are just given out to certain people and that's it. And in the making of doc, you see a lot of them sort of reprimanding extras saying like, "Hey, this is top secret what you're going to see." So just, you know, so in turn, these actors are going through this journey together on the making of this film. So they do become close, they do become friends, and sort of witness some of this stuff as it's happening at the same time. And with people like TJ Miller who can improvise right away, they get this natural relationship that they're building. So it's really interesting that what this movie's known for is the found footage and the monster and all of the marketing and everything. But then there's this other layer to it of how these characters naturally relate to each other, which I think they do a tremendous job with as well.
The camera cuts back in. It's Rob's brother and his girlfriend. They're in the bodega. They're picking up party goods. We cut to them walking upstairs, arguing. He's saying he doesn't want to get testimonials. They're arguing all the way up to the front door. They run into the party, and Rob's brother approaches HUD, who he immediately enlists to take camera testimonial job. HUD is reluctant, but then gets stoked when he finds out that Marlena is going to be at the party, and then he's sold. Our new cameraman is HUD for the rest of this movie.
Mhm.
He begins taking testimonials immediately from Rob's brother, who is wishing him luck on his trip to Japan, which is cool. I like that they linked Japan in with this film.
Mhm.
HUD goes around the party getting more footage from randos congratulating Rob on his Japan trip. Turns out Rob's got a new vice president job he's taking out there. HUD stops Marlena and makes his move. He asks for a testimonial. She reluctantly gives one, even though she doesn't really know Rob well. She knows his brother's girlfriend, but HUD begs her and she gives her testimonial. Everyone's quieting down to surprise Rob as he walks in. Everyone yells surprise. They chant for Rob to give a speech. And we see a person filming the speech with their own little digital camera. And I had heard part of the lore or whatever was that they were going to make a sequel using different points of views from other people's cameras and such, but that never transpired.
Oh yeah. Oh, I never
Yeah.
that I never heard.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have been for the different points of view of this is night.
Yeah. Of
Yeah.
this, of what's about to happen. It's like the same story, but just from different people's point of view.
Yeah, I don't know if that would hold up as a film. It is glaring though to see the phones that they're using. They have like a lot of the like Nokias and I think it is. It's
The
pretty
flippy
funny.
phones.
Yeah.
Rob thanks everybody at the party. HUD does a quick one-on-one with Rob, who asks if Beth is coming, but HUD doesn't know. He hasn't seen her. A while passes. HUD is having the time of his life. He's filming, and in walks Beth with her new boyfriend. Dun, dun, dun. Rob gets bummed. He cuts to HUD. Cut to HUD filming Beth talking, having fun. Cut to Rob sitting lonely, sulking in a dark corner, taking shots of sake. HUD asks him if he's okay. He asks if that's his camera. HUD doesn't know because Rob's brother just gave it to him. Rob asks if they switched the tape because he had a tape in there, but we know damn well they didn't switch the tape because anytime it cuts in and out, we see his date with Beth that he was going on to Coney Island.
Which was April 27th. So this is May 22nd. So right?
1 month, yeah.
1 month and she's got a new boyfriend? Or it's funny. They say like when they list this movie, they say something about them supposedly right. It's hidden. It's a secret. So they're just keeping it a secret and he doesn't want to. Can we get into that? Like why they're keeping it a secret from everybody?
I don't know.
You want to
why.
get into that when we get to it? I'm just curious, but it's only been a month.
Yeah, yes. And maybe it's not her boyfriend. Maybe it's just a friend of hers and he misjudged it.
I don't like that guy, Shawn.
Yeah, he's in another movie I really want us to do, As Above, So Below, which is like phenomenal movie, I think. But yeah, no, he does. He's got that face and he's like, "Hey, what's up, guy?" And it's like, get out of my party. I don't know you. Get out of my party. Rob gets bummed. He knows his date tape is now gone because HUD is taped over the whole thing.
Which how does that even work with an SD card?
Oh, right. See, that's the VHS. You gotta love that VHS mindset.
The VHS mentality, yeah. Put some Scotch tape on it so you can record over something. But
who doesn't love a good VHS?
But I don't know how it works for the SD card unless there's fast forwarding, and maybe there's fast forwarding, like you hit the button by accident and fast forwards, and then you record over the other piece. I don't know. Somebody write in and tell us if you're an expert on SD cards and if this is even possible or plausible. Write us at inmadness@gmail.com and let us know.
Yeah, I didn't give out the email in the beginning. inmadnesspod@gmail.com.
Oh, I gave out the wrong one.
Ask us anything about our past year of episodes. HUD goes up to Beth. He asks her for a testimonial. She seems sad. Tells Rob she's happy for him. She's really going to miss him. Rob steps into the room, grabs Beth, and asks to speak with her outside. HUD runs up to Jason, who is Rob's brother, and tells him something is going on. His bro doesn't want to be bothered, so HUD goes on the investigation. He cracks open the door. Rob and Beth are arguing. She says he never called her. He can't believe she brought a date to the party. She said they haven't spoke in weeks, 4 weeks, apparently. And then they bust HUD for filming them having this argument. So Lily,
I love throughout the movie, HUD's always like, I'm supposed to be filming. Like, this is my job. Like, this is
documenting.
I'm documenting.
He's got a great line coming up soon. Lily, Jason's girlfriend, pulls Hud into the apartment, tells him not to film them. Hud goes to Jason and tells him what's going on. We see Jason wearing the Slusho shirt. Do you want to quickly give some Slusho detail?
So Slusho was like a slushy drink type thing. Tell me if I get this wrong, Shawn.
I honestly
But
don't know the specifics of it, to be
okay,
totally honest.
okay. So I will say, first of all, it's a big part of the marketing campaign for this movie was stuff with Slusho. When you were digging into the viral campaign for this, there was tons of Slusho stuff. So it's a classic slush beverage. The special ingredient is seabed's nectar, which apparently gives it an addictive quality. And the company claims that it makes people extremely healthy. And then if we jump forward, we can weave into one of the theories. There's a belief that them sort of mining this seabed's nectar is what's opened up the chasm.
Crevasse.
I'm a crevasse in the ocean or the river or wherever it is that originally came from. And I guess it would be the ocean then, right? The seabed's nectar. I don't think they're getting that out of the Hudson River. That would be quite a drink. Could you imagine?
Just sludge and slime.
Oh, that's the conspiracy that Slusho is. Yeah. So I don't know where they're getting this seabed's nectar from. I would be hard pressed to think they're not even getting it in the Atlantic Ocean. Right?
I
So
haven't. Yeah.
I would think it's
It was just a
somewhere
whole weird.
exotic. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's somewhere exotic and they're getting it, or they could just be lying. It's just tap water. But that kind of weaves into it, and their flavors are blueberry zoom, chocolate rage, nasha, banana anime, strawberry tasty. So they went all out in creating this brand, right? I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was a website, the Slusho website is kind of what kicked off
I
all of
think
this
so.
viral marketing, and people could dig into that a little bit. And I think this website now in 2024 has become active again, or they're starting to ramp up some website stuff for potential future films or properties.
I would like to think something is happening because everything that happened after this movie, after 10 Cloverfield Lane, I feel like just did not tickle me even nearly as much as this movie did. If
Oh, you
anything,
know what,
I did not
Shawn?
like any of the sequels. Yeah.
No. Oh, so in my prep for this movie, I watched the other two since I was down for the count and not feeling well, and I liked them. And
Yeah.
we could get into Cloverfield Paradox a little at the end of this if you want.
Mm, mm.
It got me thinking for sure on a lot of things, but I don't know. Maybe we should do them as like a bunch if we're going to talk about both of them. But
The
I
cluster. Yeah.
tried not to let me seeing them interject into this because I want us to capture and talk about it like we're seeing it when it came out, and we're sort of figuring it out as we go along.
And I kind of like to think of it as a standalone movie. So to me, nothing else even exists.
Right. And I think that was the intention with 10 Cloverfield Lane, is to have it exist on its own. I think Paradox then tried to weave everything together and into a nice bunch and have them connect up in some way. But I think they were sort of going with, it's an interesting way to do it, to create this movie and then to not create an actual sequel to this film. Whereas that was what everybody was clamoring for and is still clamoring for, a direct sequel to this film. I just hope it's not found footage. We can just go another way with it.
There, figure something else out.
Yeah, we don't need.
Hopefully it's better than the 10-foot alien footage I sent you.
Maybe.
Why is it blurry in 2024? The men approach Lily, who seems to know the dirt. She says Rob and Beth slept together. They can't believe she knows, and they don't. And immediately Hud approaches everyone at the party, telling them that Rob and Beth slept together. Yep, go ahead.
Sorry. So they're supposed to be friends. Nobody's supposed to know this. They got this other relationship going on. And then Rob takes this job in Japan presumably that's going to keep him from sort of committing to her in any way, and off we go. But nobody kind of knew about any of this, but they all thought it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You always suspect it. You could smell it. As he's doing this, Beth walks in pissed off. She grabs her date to go. Rob walks in pissed off. She tells Rob good luck in Japan, and he tells Beth's date good luck tonight, Travis. Beth gets pissed and leaves.
Get out, Travis.
Get the hell out of my house. Lily gets mad and tells Jason and Hud they need to talk to Rob. Rob says it was a spur of the moment thing. The guys say Beth was mad that Rob blew her off. He said he's leaving to Japan. What's he supposed to do? The guys are pressing Rob, telling him they know that Beth and Rob are in love. His brother says it's all about moments. You got to learn to say forget the world and hang on to the people that care about you most. And then something happens. There's a big explosion or earthquake or impact or something. Everything starts going haywire. The lights go out. Alarms are going off. Everyone's freaking out. What the hell was that? Whole party's freaking out. Was it an earthquake? No one knows. They put on News 1, which is the local news here in New York.
Yeah, New York 1.
New York 1. And a reporter says a possible earthquake in lower Manhattan nearby in New York Harbor. We're getting word of an oil tanker capsizing near the Statue of Liberty. The guys know it's nearby, so they head to the roof. They go to the top of the building. They hear sirens and ambulances. Some of the party goers are thinking it's another terrorist attack since we're post 9/11 here. HUD goes up.
I want to address that when we get to another scene. Actually,
yes. HUD goes up to Rob and asks him what's going on. He tells him he should have left to Japan a little earlier. For a second, the guys laugh. It will be their last. An enormous explosion. Far out in the distance, everyone is stunned until they notice debris heading right towards them, shooting down like meteors out of the sky. Everyone runs to the stairwell to escape. The camera cuts in and out. It's twisting and turning, total chaos in the stairwell. They get down to the street. It's flooded with people running away. HUD looks down the street. We see a building, smoke. Everyone's freaking out. Where's Jason? Rob's brother. Which, my friends, brings me to my milking of the alpacas moment.
Yes, this was my exact moment. I wrote in all caps in my notes. I was like, Shawn and I 100% have to have this. And
this is what happened in the trailer. They showed the milking of the alpacas moment in the trailer, and it blew my mind in the trailer, and it blew my mind when I saw it happen in the movie.
And you know what's crazy? Before we get to the moment, and I'm going to let you describe it in detail. This trailer was made while they were still filming this movie. They were still writing this movie as they were filming this movie. They were making the trailer for this movie as they were filming this movie. And they knew they needed to have that scene in it. And they went in and dipped in and did a couple party scene shots that they wove in later on when they actually filmed them. But literally the trailer drops and they're just knee deep and still working on this film when it dropped.
That's what I like to hear. Total chaos. They look in the direction of the smoke and something comes flying towards them like it was thrown. It hits a building. It comes down loudly. It's clanging down the street they're standing on, coming directly towards them. Everyone screams, runs out of the way. HUD gets this perfect shot of this big thing clanging down the street, destroying cars, light poles, everything in its path. It comes skidding to a stop right in front of them, and it's the head of the Statue of Liberty. Whoa.
And a direct nod to the Escape from New York poster with this big Statue of Liberty head. And and JJ calls it out and says that that's where he got that kind of concept from.
So cool.
Yeah. Or Matt Reeves, I don't remember which one.
Posting that on the socials side by side in Madness Pod. Excuse me. Everyone's freaking out. HUD zooms in on the statue's face, and you can almost see claw marks on it. Maybe it's a lion. Everyone is standing there taking their own photos of it. Out runs Jason, Rob's brother. He is safe for now. There's a giant rumble. The ground shakes. HUD zooms down the street. The street that the head came flying down, and in the smoke, we see something move. You can't tell what it is, what you're looking at, but something is moving. It looks like a chicken leg or something. HUD is freaking out, asking everybody if they saw it. Of course they didn't. Everyone's looking at the Statue of Liberty's head in the middle of the goddamn street. We hear another noise. Everyone looks back in shock, and we see a building come crumbling to the ground, and a large plume of smoke races down the block. Everyone runs for cover. They run into a bodega. HUD is asking everyone if they saw it. We see outside the window the plume of smoke rolling down the street. People are running in the stores screaming. HUD's freaking out. He's like, Rob, I saw it. We hear these enormous impacts. Like this creature is walking, and every step it takes, there's like a mini earthquake. The camera's shaking around, and HUD goes, Rob, I saw it. It's alive. And boom, another step causes an impact, and it blows out all the glass in the store, and the entire store fills up with smoke. I love that quote from HUD.
Mm-hmm.
So HUD puts down the camera. Everyone's choking from the dust and the smoke. The camera, as it's on the floor, is still shaking from every step this creature is taking. Off in the distance, we hear it scream. Everyone leaves the store, and the entire block is in flames and destroyed. Fires, smoke, dust, people panicking, coughing, choking. We hear ambulances in the distance, and out stumbles Marlena in bad shape.
And so we both saw this movie. We both live in New York. We both saw this movie in Manhattan 7 years after 9/11. And this stuff, even 7 years out, was hard to look at. I mean, this is exactly what you would just see on news footage: people covered in dust and debris, injured people, people coughing, people stumbling around dazed. I mean, they obviously, and they mentioned going into that news footage and kind of looking at it. It's amazing. I wonder how it affects other people that see it who didn't live in the area. Or I mean, we were both watching it in Manhattan when we saw it. Do you? I don't want to go deep into it, Shawn, but we should ask each other because we've never have. Where were you for 9/11?
I think it was a Tuesday,
Mhm.
and I think I slept through the whole thing. Unfortunately, I
Wow.
was completely
Well, not the
gone
whole
in the
thing, but the
world.
whole morning part of it.
Yeah, I don't think I woke up till like 11 a.m. and I had
Yeah.
like people beeping me on my beeper.
Oh, yes, a beeper. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I found out.
That's crazy. So I worked at the time. I worked at the New York Historical Society in the city, and was living in Queens. And so I think plane hit, and I still went to work because I didn't know what was going on. And then the trains weren't. I got off the trains and I was walking, and then I got to the Historical Society, which is right near the Museum of Natural History, right along Central Park. And the security guard was like closing these giant doors that they have, and he's like, "We're closed. Where are you? You got to go home." And I was like, "What do you mean I got to go home?" And then people started to talk about it, and then I had to get back to Queens. So no trains are running. So
Oof.
I walked
Oof.
back. I lived in Astoria at the time. And so I started to walk back, and I got around that, like where the CBS building stuff is and everything, and the big screens. And there were like the jets flying overhead down Fifth Avenue, and people were crying, and everyone's car doors were open, and nobody knew what was going on. And then I remember I was walking across the bridge to Queens, and people were riding in like soda trucks and stuff. Like the sides of the trucks are open as they're empty, and they were letting people climb in to ride them across. And I was walking with some dude for a while, so we just kind of started talking. And I did what I always do in situations like that. I started kind of making jokes, because not about what was happening, but just about kind of myself or us. And when we got to the middle of the bridge, I was like, well, they take out the bridge right now, I guess we're done or whatever. And he just kind of looked at me. It was like, how could you be? And I was like, I don't know any other way to be right now. I'm just gonna keep saying dumb things because I
Have you
just
ever seen Color Out of Space? It's a great movie. I think you should see Color Out of Space and listen to this atmospheric black metal band. It's the greatest thing
oh,
I've
this is a
ever seen.
long time ago to do that.
Yeah, before
So
that, yeah.
yeah.
It was also the exact same day that Slayer's album God Hates Us
Yes.
All was released.
Absolutely. And there's all the advertising with it. I think I still have the Decibel magazine with the ad in it. And I bought that album kind of soon after this because I didn't get it obviously the day it came out. And I remember listening to it when I was in Manhattan after that and just feeling really weird about everything. But it took me, I don't even know how many, it took me the entire day to walk from, where the Museum of Natural History is all the way across. If you're in New York, you'll know how far that is into Astoria. And people just walking in droves,
Insane.
kind of not even really knowing what's going on. Now you're going to know, everyone's so connected. You're going to be on Twitter, you're going to be wherever, and you're going to see it. But it was literally people crowded on somebody's car, and they had the radio on, and they were explaining like what had happened. So,
which we actually kind of get in a few minutes.
Yeah, and I think it's, we weren't. I'm not trying to claim that you and I were in the middle of any of it at all or whatever, but we were, affected in some way by living in this area. Everyone in the country was affected in some way. And so this movie, wrapping around the movie plays off of that, and it plays off of it 7 years later. And I wonder when the first time is somebody felt comfortable enough to play off of it. But it's certainly, for me, the most impactful version of that. And I would say the safest version of that for me to watch because it's got a monster in it. So my go-to are monsters. So it's not reality. It's not something awful happened. It's, oh, look at this monster and he's going to destroy things. It makes
Godzilla's done this a million times.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier, right? Just like Godzilla handles, nuclear bombs. And we'll get into it when we do Godzilla, how the weight of those movies. But certainly adding the monster in is what made me be okay with it, I think. But yeah, this is, if you've never seen Cloverfield, you stop this podcast right now and go.
No, you've had to. You've had damn near 20 years to see Cloverfield. HUD's looking at the condition of the block they're standing on. The buildings seem to have claw marks in them. Cars are flipped over. Some are completely pancaked flat. He approaches people from the party, tells them he's got it on tape, and he goes to show them the tape. The camera cuts back to Rob and Beth on the train to Coney Island. She's telling Rob this will be a great opportunity for him going to Japan. He asks if she thinks he should really go, and she gives him a long look. The camera cuts back again. Everyone's reacting because HUD just showed them the chicken leg that he filmed walking by. Everyone's freaking out. No one can believe what they saw. Jason, Rob's brother, tries calming everyone down. They decide to get the hell out of Manhattan. HUD goes over to tell Lily and Marlena they're leaving. They get up and Marlena comes out with it. She says it was eating people. It was eating everyone. Whoa. Lily and HUD look at each other concerned, and they get the hell out of there. They go to the Brooklyn Bridge, chopper above them with spotlight, telling everybody keep moving. See another guy filming with his own little camera, which I figured would be part of the sequel where he was filming from his camera, whatever. HUD sees him filming and goes to focus on what he's looking at, and it's a whole ship, a cruise ship, an army ship. I don't know what kind of ship it is, but it's on fire and it's smoking, and it looks like it was picked up out of the water and thrown to wherever it's laying.
Yeah, it's probably maybe like a ship that just carrying stuff. How they have those big
container ships.
Ship in the container ships. Yeah, exactly. So when they're on the bridge, this is cutting back and forth. They did a little filming on the actual Brooklyn Bridge, but they did a good amount on a green screen too. So they cut back and forth between this green screen Brooklyn Bridge where they built the bridge that they're walking on, and the rest of it is green screen. And two, they filmed this movie, was shot in about 36 days, Shawn. So completely in 36 days. I don't know how long they were in post-production with the special effects, but it certainly, I think the effects got helped a lot because they're of the way this is filmed too. And they mention it in the, not that they didn't do tremendous effects, but it can be grainy. It can be out of focus. It can be, like every other supposed alien intervention that we have on this planet. It's suddenly out of focus or grainy. So that kind of helps them, but it's pretty amazing. They're cutting back and forth on this bridge scene is pretty beautiful.
HUD moves the camera to the left, and there's the goddamn Statue of Liberty with its head missing and helicopters flying around it. Insane. Rob is surprised HUD is still filming, and HUD says people are going to want to know how it all went down.
And also, Shawn, the other Statue of Liberty reference would be Planet of the Apes, right? So you have the end of Planet of the Apes and the Statue of Liberty and the head and everything there too. So, but the shot of it in the street is very much like the poster from Escape from New York.
I didn't even think of that. That's brilliant. Rob's phone begins ringing. It's Beth. Rob stops walking. HUD stops with him. Lily and Marlena walk ahead a little bit. They stop for Rob and HUD. Jason, however, Rob's brother, gets caught in the crowd and is further ahead of everybody. Beth tells Rob she can't move. We get a tremor. Everything shakes. HUD points his camera down to the cars under them on the bridge, and we see everybody in a panic running in the opposite direction. The crew tries to get together. They're screaming for Jason, who climbs a light pole to let them know where he is. Lily screams, "Jason, watch out!" And above him, we see a gigantic tail, some extension of whatever this being is, come crashing down right onto the bridge, right onto Jason, dead. The whole Brooklyn Bridge breaks in half, begins crumbling. Cables are snapping, all coming right towards HUD as the bridge is collapsing. It's a dope shot.
Amazing shot. It does add to I have a lot of confusion about this monster, or dare I say monsters.
Whoa.
and part of it is right here with this mammoth tail, and they were just in the street and it was there in the street. Now they're just in the bridge and it's back in the water and it's on the bridge. And
I mean, it can get around pretty fast. It's gigantic, I would imagine, or they can get around pretty fast.
Yeah, we can get into on part 2 of this episode. We're going to get into a few theories.
They make it off the bridge. HUD, Rob, Lily, and Marlena get together. Lily is freaking out about Jason. Rob is freaking out about Jason and Beth, but mostly Beth. We see guys looting the electronics store. HUD is saying they got to get out of there. Rob's phone battery dies, so he runs into the electronics store. Inside, the TVs are on the news showing what just happened on the bridge, showing the tail of this creature breaking the bridge in half. On another screen, another gigantic reveal. HUD is watching the news, and they have an aerial shot of this beast, this gigantic monster in the middle of Manhattan. You don't fully see it because the vision is obstructed by buildings, but you can tell right there, you got a fucking monster. It is so cool.
And let's back up for a second, because I gotta dig into what was my word, Shawn, minutia for you on this. But so filmed in LA, so that electronics store is an actual electronics store in downtown LA. And Matt Reeves says on the commentary that they put that Sephora there because there's a Sephora there. And I guess the locals were like super excited that a Sephora was opening there, but it wasn't actually opening there. They just put it in there for the film, and it was going to be gone like a couple days, like a day later or something. But yeah, that's a actual electronics store in downtown LA. So they're doing a good job of cutting back and forth here.
And it does look like New York because of the goddamn Sephora. There's a Sephora on every other block in New York. So I had no idea it was LA until you just said it, because I 100% believe that it was like just shot somewhere in New York.
Right.
HUD looks outside, sees all these army trucks driving down the block. It's mandatory evacuation. We hear the creature again screaming off in the distance. Rob is freaking out, looking for a new phone battery. HUD turns around. Everyone has stopped what they're doing and is sitting there watching the TV. They're showing a news report. We get these amazing shots. On one TV, you see the military approaching it, these enormous legs and feet. Another TV has another aerial shot of the back of it, and it looks like it's got these really long, nasty arms and legs. And the news reporter says, it looks like there's something coming off of it. And we get a shot from the other TV. These little things are raining off of the creature, and once they hit the ground, they unravel into these gigantic scorpion bug monster goblin things, and they start attacking the army guys. It is so sick.
Yeah,
they're all freaking out trying to get Rob out of the store. He checks his messages. It's Beth. She's crying. She's trapped. She can't move. The whole wall of her apartment fell on her. She's bleeding and trapped, and Rob is freaking out. She ends the message saying, "Help me, Rob."
Oh.
He stands there
Man.
freaking out, thinking to himself, and makes up his mind. He's going back to rescue Beth.
And those little creatures are like these little parasites that live on these almost like kind of crustacean bug-like parasites that live off of the should we call them I think they called them clover at one point. Should we call them clover? Should we name them clover?
Yeah, I never even had a name for it.
Did you never came up with a name for them yourself?
No, no, no. I just throw in beast and monster and all these cool, gigantic words. Yeah, I don't have a name. Just Henry, Henry the
Yeah.
monster.
But you call them Henry if you want. So they these things are it can't get any worse, can it, Sean? So this
Mm.
giant thing comes out, it's destroying buildings, and then the crap that's falling off of it is parasites that have now decided that they don't want to be on their host anymore, and they're just going to drop off
And they want to
their
eat
host,
you now.
and then
Yeah.
they want to eat humans or bite them and do other things to them. But yeah, that's a really cool idea. That's kind of a next level thinking. Like you went past just because then that creates it gets so big that if you get away from it in one location, you could conceivably be safe. But now they've introduced this second organism, much like the mist had multitude organisms introduced, and that adds just another level of distress for our heroes, I guess you would call them.
So the first thing my Godzilla nerd ass thought of was Godzilla 1985. It's one of my favorites. I've mentioned it to you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning of Godzilla in 1985, it's something that happens that has never happened and is before or after this Godzilla movie ever, where there's a creature, this little bug creature thing that kind of looks like a fly, but like it's got Godzilla-ish kind of it looks like an insect, and,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's never explained ever. It ever nothing of it, and I'm like, "Is this a thing that came off of Godzilla?"
Hmm.
And the second I saw these things dropping off of it, I was like, "Oh, did he see the same movie and think the same thing?"
I'm sure he
Well,
saw all of them. Yeah.
yeah, we'll get to that maybe one day. I mean, it's the 85 is one of my top 2 Godzilla movies ever. And yeah, there's a moment like that, and that was the first thing I thought of was like, yeah, they've never done that in another Godzilla movie, and they never explained why it was in that Godzilla movie. So
Mm-hmm.
so HUD, yep.
Nope, that's it. We're good.
HUD's freaking out. Lily's freaking out. Rob tells them, follow the military. He's going to go alone. They refuse to let him go alone. Rob says they can't talk him out of it. Lily insists on going with him. Marlena and HUD are not stoked.
Mm-mm.
They're walking through the street freaking out. HUD is saying, call the cops, call the fire department. Rob tried, no luck. They're walking. We see army trucks driving past, and boom, a block away, right in front of him, this enormous foot of this monster comes crashing down on a building. From behind them, rockets begin firing, machine guns begin blasting. The kids hide, they're yelling, screaming. The army's closing in, tanks, guns, rockets, the whole deal, blasting away on the creature. HUD with his camera is going back and forth, and you're waiting. This is probably you in the theater when your poor wife was sweating, and you're like, this, it's gonna be right now, because he's just flailing, and you see a elbow and you see a knee, and you're like, just show me the face,
Yeah, let me
whatever it
get
is.
this. Let me
Yes,
get this creature. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's dying to see it. And I have to ask though, like the military, they got there fast, Sean. Like super fast.
maybe they knew the whole time.
Huh.
HUD alludes to that soon.
Hmm.
Yeah, HUD catches a glimpse of these arms flailing. You hear the monster yell. It's being attacked. HUD sees Lily, Rob, and Milena and signals them to run in the subway. They make a run for it. HUD is freaking out. They get to the subway, and here it comes. A gigantic foot crashes right down in front of HUD. He picks up the camera, and clear as day, we see it. This monster. I don't even know how to describe it. Long arms, long legs, these animal-like bat skull head with these big sharp teeth.
Yeah, and it has almost like these two, we see it later, almost like lungs on the top of its head where it's kind of breathing in and out. It does change sizes if a bunch in this movie. We'll get to it.
It's getting blasted by the army. It screams out in pain. Hud and the rest of the gang head down to the subway. There's a large explosion. They fall inside the subway. It's empty. They're all panicked, but they're all safe. And that, my friends, I feel like is the perfect spot for us to take a break and get you prepared for next In Madness Monday, episode 23, In Madness Pod. Cloverfield Part 2, one of my favorite monster movies of all time. I put this right up there with the Shin Godzillas and the Godzilla -1s and the 1985s and the 1954s and 1956s. Cloverfield is in that realm. I love this movie. I love how I saw this movie. Rest in peace, Patrice O'Neal, one of the greatest of all time. I cannot believe what a ridiculous experience. I hold like look at this. You sent me a picture of the DVD you have, and there's reviews on it. On the front of my DVD, there's reviews on it. I guarantee you one of the dudes who wrote one of these reviews was in the theater that Patrice was pissing off. Like I think of that all the time. I love this movie. I'm so glad you love this movie. Hopefully, if you're listening to this episode, you enjoyed this movie as well. I think it's like iconic. I think it's historic. And I love that there's people who just don't get it. They're like, oh, I'm not a big monster guy. And it's like, well, you're missing out. You're missing out because this is
well, they're
gold.
not listening. I don't think the not big monster guys are probably not listening to this podcast as much, but we left everyone hanging. We've got them in the subway station here. And you're going to have to wait a week, or if you're listening to us in the future when monsters have already taken over the planet, you can listen to it whenever you want, and it doesn't matter. But we appreciate everyone taking the first part of the ride with us on this one. And yeah, I don't have anything to plug.
Come on, plug your thing. You posted it, and I fucking love what you've been posting. What do you plug it?
Yeah,
just
plug my merchandise at Ep.23. Actually, somebody sent a picture, and we'll have to post a photo of them with the shirt. But my merch is available at all Hot Topic stores. Any store you go into, there's probably at least 2 of my designs hanging up on the wall. You can order them online as well. New stuff coming for 2024. So vertebrae33.com. Check out all my other designs and artwork. And In Madness plug, Shawn?
Yes, on the socials at In Madness Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Hit us in the mail sack, inmadnesspod@gmail.com. We are going to be reading your emails and after the Cloverfield wraps up for part 2. Subscribe to the YouTube page. You can watch us. You can hang out with us. You can comment. You can interact however you take in this podcast. Thank you for listening. Make sure you follow the In Madness Spotify playlist. I don't know if we have any music that we will be adding from this movie to the Spotify, or maybe the one song.
Yes,
you said it's only one song, so maybe we'll add that. And make sure you tell your friends if you're enjoying what you're hearing. Spread the word, spread the madness worldwide. We want more people listening. 2024, bigger, better, everything is how we're doing it on this podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you for episode 23, part 2 in Madness Pod.